Hi guys, welcome to the 44th episode of the Soul Sanctuary podcast. Hi Ocean, how are you?
I am well, thank you. How are you? 44?
Yeah, it's
Girl,
44 already. Where has the time
congratulations.
gone?
Exactly.
So today we decided to do viewer's choice. Do you want to tell everyone what that's about?
Yes. So, viewer's choice is just that. You guys get to choose what we talk about. The last time we did it, it was kind of like a free flow, but it flowed so well. And so, have you all had any questions on your mind, any topics on your mind? 1212 portal, energetic basics, emotional things, empath things, what have you. Just let us know. Let's talk about it.
Definitely. So first, while people are putting their questions and whatever they want to talk about today, thank you, Lindsay. Lindsay is reminding us that we do have our 4 different artesian breads. These are gluten-free, dairy-free, cow dairy-free. We also have vegan options. We have the vegan yummers, the fairy berry, the apple, which is Ocean's favorite,
It is.
and jalapeno. All of them are my favorite. So,
I'm so glad that you started with that because I would like to share a story if that's okay.
of course.
And maybe some of you have experienced something similar, seeing someone pay it forward or having something paid forward for you. Listen, we vend our products, and recently we were out and a customer came by, and he's very supportive all the time. And he bought some bread, and he got like a loaf and a personal and some other stuff, whatever. So I was always appreciative. I was appreciative, and I thanked him and everything. Then he left the bag, and I'm like, okay, here's your bag. And he asked me to give it to the very next customer.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, it touched my heart already at that. But guys, it's just happened so wonderfully because the very next customer, she was so sweet. She was so sweet. She had a little baby on her chest, and she had a young toddler walking with her. And she was so sweet. She liked the divinity oil. She liked everything. We were out of the apple bread, but she got a chance to sample it, and it was her favorite too. She loved it. But she had no idea that she was going to get all of that with her purchase. So it's so nice to be nice. It's kind of us to be kind when it comes from the heart and it's so sincere. And you never know who you can touch. And it doesn't have to be anything grand. It can even just be a nice gesture. But I would like to challenge us all, whoever would like to participate, do something kind. First of all, for yourself, but do something kind for someone, just randomly, you know? Have you all ever experienced anything like that or seen anything like that happen for anyone?
I've experienced it for myself
Wow.
several years ago. So I have a huge family, right? And I have all boys. And we went to a restaurant. We figured we are going to go and have brunch together. We rarely ever eat out together simply because food allergies. So we go to this one restaurant, and the only space they have available is a tiny booth. So we're all like literally like sardines in this booth. And so obviously my kids start quietly arguing with each other. And I'm like, this is so embarrassing. The only time we go out, you guys can't even get along right now. And then, we noticed that the waitress is approaching our table. So I'm like, shh. Everybody, shh.
Right.
The waitress says, so this lovely couple, they feel like your family is just so sweet and so beautiful. They want breakfast to be on them, and they've purchased this gift card for you. And I was like, oh my God, did they know we were arguing?
I know, right? I know y'all was over here acting the fool, but sweet. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's so beautiful. I love it. I've done it and I've had it done for me. It
Mhm.
is just beautiful. It just happens out of the blue. It's not something that you expect, but it happens. It's so beautiful. Have any of you out there experienced that or done that for anyone?
It's always a beautiful thing, even if you're not the one receiving.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing to witness it.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. It is so beautiful.
Yeah. I have this habit sometimes of just purchasing the groceries for the person behind me.
Yes, you're behind you. Right. Right. I
Yeah,
love
or in front of me, if I
it.
see
They
the person
know.
like, "Oh, can you take this and this and this out?" And I'm like, "You know what? Leave it in there. I
Yes.
got you today."
Yes.
Mhm. It's a beautiful thing. It
It is.
it gives us this, ability to connect with each other in a way that's genuine.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's true.
You know, I do wanna ask your opinion and everyone's opinion on this. It's kinda just popped in my head. So there are some people who will help others, and they'll record it to post it on social media.
You already know my opinion on that, but since we're doing the podcast, then let me start surging. All right, guys, I absolutely abhor, and I do mean abhor to the fullest extent, fake acts of kindness,
Mhm.
insincere, publicity stunts, just clout chasing, altruistic looking fakeness. I don't like it. And especially one problem that I have with it, I see this trend where there'll be somebody in a store and he'll be like, he'll go up to the person, camera all up in the face, such and such and such and such, and this bogus question. Then he just give the person $500. Oh, thank you, thank you. The person just, I don't even want to talk about how the person isn't, but it's like, first of all, where is the respect for dignity if this stuff is not staged? Where's the respect for somebody's dignity, somebody's privacy, somebody's humanity? You have a camera all up in their face. Like, if you want to do something sincerely, is that really the way to do it? Why are you doing it? What are your motives for doing this? Actually, how
Yeah.
do you feel about that?
Um, I'm kind of mixed.
Hmm.
When I do see the fake altruism, yeah, ew.
Yeah.
Ew, you're absolutely exploiting someone's suffering. That is not okay. I don't like that at all. But there are certain types of content like that where it's this showcasing what humanity can do for each other.
That's different.
Yeah,
That's
that is
very different.
genuine.
I'm not talking about
Yeah,
that.
no, 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 no. So
Yeah.
it's like this thing where I think what's been happening, because I've been seeing a lot of people who they're genuine in their concern, right? They're trying to raise funds for a stranger. They came across a stranger with a story and they're like, you know what, we can't leave this person like this. And they're trying to raise funds. And then I'll see in the comments like, oh, this would have been nice if you weren't trying to exploit them. And it's like, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. Where
Yeah.
did you get that sense from? So there's a lot of this confusion, lack of discernment of who's genuine and who's doing it for exploitation,
Mm.
exploitative purposes. For example, last night I came across a video. This young lady, she posted kind of just a still from behind of this older gentleman who had a walker. And excuse me, she was almost in tears and she's like, he looked like it was so hard for him to walk.
Mm.
And she goes on about how she kind of asked him if she can give him a ride home because he looked like he was going to just keep walking, and he was refusing, and finally she insisted, and she was able to bring him home. And I guess she felt like the utilities were too much for him, and so his place was either really hot or really cold, something like that, and left all the lights off, and he could only walk to the store a couple times a week. And she was offering, like, call me, this is my number, I don't live very far, I want to be able to help you, I'll buy the groceries for you so you don't have to leave.
Mhm.
And he was very much about his independence,
Mhm.
and it didn't really show his face pretty much this entire time. It was just the back of him in a grocery store, just to show,
Mhm.
like, this is a real person.
Yeah, yeah.
And she got it within herself to be like, guys, please help me raise enough money for a mobility scooter so that he can remain independent.
Yeah,
And
yes,
oh my gosh, it was like a very genuine thing, very, very genuine thing. I didn't feel any exploitation in there.
right.
But in the comments, there was this one person that was just like, oh, this would have been sweet if it wasn't for the fact that it's like, why are you posting it on social media? How's she going to raise the money?
Yeah,
No.
and I guess I can understand where the person could have been coming from because you have so many people who do that for
Right.
that reason. You
Right.
truly do. And it's important, I mean, like for individuals, like you said, sometimes showing that, hey, this is another way of being. This is another beautiful way of being. We can actually be that. We have the capacity to really be truly human beings and really respect each other and love one another, even without knowing one another or wanting anything in return. You also have with in the public sector, the public trust is extremely important. And one thing that's important is to actually demonstrate impact because you have so many people who take advantage. So again, I can understand that that desire to go ahead and capture some of these things to actually establish your impact. You know, that matters too.
Yeah. I think the main issue is that the world has ceased to develop their ability to discern.
Yeah. And the experiences, you know, schema and everything, those things really matter, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, I again, I'm mixed. I see Carmen's comment. I'm mixed because I do a lot of stuff for other people in real life that I don't share. And it's kind of this thing of if maybe because I am very genuine and you can tell like I can't really fake anything.
Right.
Maybe if I shared more of that, people would be more inspired to do the same. But then again, it's kind of this thing of like, I don't want people to think that I'm trying to like just show how good of a person I am. Like I know I'm a good person. And then plus there's that factor where it's like this is my own little selfish moment. It feels good to me to help other people and I don't want to share that with anyone, you know? It's just between me and the person. So it's hard. It's hard. I hope that more people, myself included, will
Yes.
find the courage to be able to share more of the genuine acts of kindness,
Yeah.
and that it will inspire people to not just emulate that, but really take it in as their own authentic truth,
Yeah.
and really truly genuinely help. We have a ton of amazing questions. Let's get started with that. The first one
I think that you should, by the way. I think that you should. You're a very sincere person. I wouldn't roll with you if that were not the case. I think that you should, and you have a nonprofit. So you really do need to demonstrate that impact. And again, that can help other people. That can you never know what that can start.
right.
And
And
we
I
can
think
explain the rationale. That's important too. Explain the why before you just put out the, we can work on that. Let's do that.
yeah. I think because of the existence of Soulwork Synergistic at this point, a lot of my hesitation to share my altruism publicly is diminishing because now it's like, okay, there's something that we're working towards. It's not just me showcasing like, hey, I'm a good person, look what I do. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I always want to be careful about the way I present the work that I do because it is a very genuine, very authentic space that I exist within.
Absolutely.
And I definitely don't want to be lumped along with the clout chasers and all of that.
And, and you won't be, you won't be. There may be some people who question, but then again, you're a very intelligent person, you're a very intuitive person, and you work alongside someone who really believes in explaining rationale, justifying the reason for a certain action, cause benefit analysis, all that stuff. We're good, no worries.
We make a good balance because I'm over here like, no, no procedure, no policy. I am the queen right now.
Like, enjoy your throne, queen. Have a seat.
She needs a nap, Frey. She needs a nap. Have you eaten, Queenie Emmy?
Right. My goodness. Yeah.
So the first question, oh my gosh, this is a very intense one.
Okay.
Okay. Spiritual RAPE. Um, I do know quite a few people who have experienced that type of extreme violation of your sacred space. It is something that is unfortunately a phenomena that is not uncommon. This is why when I teach people how to protect their space, how to discern, one of the main things that I teach is that you have to defend your space to the degree that is necessary. Okay. It's not just proclaiming that this is my space, you're not allowed. If there is no energy to back that up, it's just like the human world. If you're telling someone to get out of your house, you're like, please leave. Most likely they're not going to listen. This is usually something that involves people who have some type of parasitic situation. It's not uncommon for me to hear about, quote unquote, spiritual leaders who do this type of thing. Um, there are those who will exploit your lack of knowledge, lack of sovereignty, in any arena, in any group, any community. You have to be very aware. Do not just believe people who are trying to proclaim that they are your spiritual this, spiritual that. In some cultures, they refer to this um, type of connection as a spiritual husband, spiritual wife, and it's like, this being, this energetic being, has some type of ownership over you, right? That they can do this type of thing to you because they are your spiritual spouse. No,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely not. So you guys have to be sure, when you start listening to someone, especially someone who's being placed in a position of spiritual authority over you, that the moment you feel uncomfortable in any way, that they might be, a little bit too interested in you, or they're letting you know that they're attracted to you, or that they're your twin flame, your spouse. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is when you get extremely defiant and very, very vocal in your defiance. Do not keep quiet on that. There was one instance several years back where this individual was very prominent in the spiritual community. Definitely not going to name names, but there were quite a few clients who were like, I feel like I've been violated, down there. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they all had the same type of experience. They're all separate people. And I'm like, who's worked on you in the past like 2 weeks or however long that I track that energy entering into their field? And they're like, this specific individual. I'm like, oh,
Mm.
you're not the first one I've come across who's had this experience. And then the person would share with me, oh my gosh, they told me they're my twin flame. Like, no, they're not. They're not. They're very parasitic in nature. So you guys got to be careful, okay? This doesn't just happen to women, it also can happen to men. So we got to be very, very careful about our space. Um, that type of experience is extremely similar to the experience of it physically happening. Okay. So that's some of the symptoms that you might experience, like very, very similar to the actual physical act. But even more, I would say even more of a violation of your space, because like the physical act, you can rationalize it, if I stay home, if I lock the door, if this and that. But when it comes to energetic, it's like there's no walls or doors can keep it out.
Mm.
So that's what makes it even worse. Both are very, very bad and absolutely should not be tolerated. But it's even more of a frightening type of circumstance because, again, it can happen anywhere, anytime. Nothing can stop it. At least that's what we're made to feel, right? Thank you for asking about that. That's a very intense topic. I can't go too deep into that here in the public live stream, but if those who are part of the Soul Sanctuary ministry, the recurring contribution, if you'd like to discuss that further in our private chat after the live stream, after this podcast, I'm definitely open to diving into that as deep as you guys want to go. Okay.
She dives deeply, guys. Very, very.
I'm intense.
Mhm.
Catherine is asking any guidance of how to let go of the past. I seem to struggle with this so much. Do you have any thoughts, Ocean?
Yeah. Um, my first thought is sometimes the past doesn't necessarily need to be let go. Sometimes we need to shift our perceptions, and sometimes the past does need to be let go as far as our connections, if they affect us in a certain way. Um, I think that sometimes, there's a time for us to deal with things head on, and sometimes we may need to put that on ice until we're at a place where we can really deal with that, in a way that's healthier, in the way in which we can be more present, more grounded, closer to our center. So I think it really depends on what you have going on. Um, I think that there's some things that we can sometimes do to kind of, what can I say, really, really think, what are the consequences of my not dealing with this like I feel like I really should, what are the consequences of letting this ride? What are the consequences of not addressing this, or, dealing with it in whatever way? And I'm a very cost benefit oriented type person, even with emotions, it's like, does the cost of this emotional response justify, does this emotional response justify the cost of this emotional response, or what have you, the effects, what have you? So, without knowing more about your situation, I would just say sometimes we have to really evaluate or reevaluate our perception in our relationship with the past.
Mm. That brings my thoughts to a video I had seen recently, and it was a little girl at some type of speaking engagement. She was on the stage with someone who appeared to be some type of monk, like a Tibetan monk or something like that, right? I don't know who he is, but she had asked him a question of, uh, how do I let go of my anger?
Mm,
And his answer was just profound.
mm,
And he says, do you think that anger came from outside of you? And it
mm,
was like, whoa, that's
mm,
something that lives in you. It's
mhm,
a reaction or a result of whatever you experience, and there's nothing to really let go. He goes
mhm,
on to talk about how, as he was growing up, what he was taught is that anger has a purpose. And if you learn how to harness that anger, the anger can serve its purpose. It can be transmuted and allowed to, really ripen into something very transformational, something
mm.
powerful.
Yes,
Um,
I like
and
that.
it really got me thinking for quite a few hours, actually, about a lot of the things that have happened in my past. I have a very colorful past.
Mhm,
It's been this thing of, have I let those things go? No.
mhm, mhm.
Do those things control me? No.
No,
So, what do I do with those things? I allow them to serve as a reference point for future events that I will still experience.
absolutely.
So
Yes.
it's at that point, it's like I'm not letting go of the past, but I don't have a death grip on it. Instead, I've dusted it off, I've placed it on the shelf. And when I need to reference something, I go to my shelf and I pick the right volume and I kind of rehash that a little bit. Okay, so, I don't think I want to experience this type of thing again.
Mhm,
And what's
mhm,
presented to me right now is very similar to what's in this volume. I think
mhm.
I'm going to have to pass on this.
Absolutely. And it's representative of parts of ourselves,
Hmm.
aspects of ourselves. And those parts or aspects of ourselves don't necessarily need to be let go. Sometimes they just need to be cultivated so they can serve us how we need to be served.
Yes. So she's giving more information. I think I've dealt with things, but then I have flashbacks and now medical PTSD. So missing appointments with no physical support. So here's the thing. And these are just kind of my thoughts, right? I also have a PTSD diagnosis, and I'm coming to understand that whenever I have a flashback, whenever I get triggered and I'm brought right back to that space where the original trauma was created, it's telling me, go back to this volume on the shelf. What did you learn here?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Right? Yeah, it's still hard. It's very, very difficult. But what I'm learning is like, I don't have to be reactionary.
mm-hmm.
I can be very, very meticulous in the way I analyze detail. So obviously, I'm going to analyze the detail when I'm not in the middle of a trigger, right? I'm not in the middle of it because that's going to be pointless to do that. You're going to punish yourself. So as I've learned this, during periods where my mind is quiet and life is just kind of in this beautiful, peaceful lull, that's when I'll go through some of the chapters, some of the volumes, and I'll look and like, yo, you know what? I'm kind of understanding. It totally wasn't even what I was thinking.
Mm,
Okay.
dang.
Okay. I felt that way towards that because of something else from a different volume. They're all connected.
Mm-hmm.
It
Oh,
sounds
I love
like,
it.
right? Not being physically supported,
Mhm.
because I've experienced that in the past, heavily, especially growing up. I'm the person who I would move full wood furniture by myself by dragging it and like kicking it across the room.
Mhm.
And it was this thing of, okay, there are people in my life that have a certain limitation in regards to their understanding of my needs as a person. It is not my job to change them or to try and force them to comply with my expectation of loving me in the way I need.
Mm.
Right? So, what does that mean? That means I need to find another way. I need to allow myself to either utilize services, public services that are available to me in order to receive the support that I need, or I need to create new friend groups. I need to allow friends to become more like family and let them in and know what I'm struggling through in that moment. And because I know that they're genuine, just these different little tweaks that I began to do.
I love
And after years, and yes, it took years, um, I don't have that issue anymore, right? I
it.
still get triggered, but then I'm like, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
So and so and so and so and so and so has proven to me time and time and time again that is not true. At least for two or three people in this world, those assumptions about everyone else is not true for them. So I
Right.
need to calm down with those assumptions.
Oh,
I'm not alone in this, and I have to remind myself these things.
that is powerful. And you know, as you're speaking, it reminds me so much of the initiative. That is all in there. Those reflective techniques, the coping mechanisms. We have some good things coming for you all, fam, and we're seeing the need more and more. So stay with us.
Yeah.
Continue to talk to us because we understand, and we're going to make this happen.
I just saw this comment. I'm kind of now not going in order. A. Lorene says, anger within children is my world right now, to the point I fully believe something is wrong with my oldest and I don't know how to fix it.
Mm.
Woo. Do you want to share your thoughts on this?
Um, I want to share my general thoughts on this. I want to be very clear that I'm not being specific to your situation, Aileen, and you know, my heart goes. I definitely have a heart for that. In general, the first thing that comes to my mind, just in general, is that sometimes, a lot of times, children are the containers, right? So we as adults may even think that we are not showing anything. We may not be showing anything, but a lot of times, especially if we're empaths, you know, the children that are brought into this world, they tend to be empathic too, a lot of times. And they hold a lot, they hold a lot. They hold a lot that they may speak on, that they may not speak on. And you know how I know? Because I was once a child, you know, I was once a child. And I know that even as a child, I was that rock, not to say that the adults always just came. Sometimes they may have, but even without them having to come, I held a lot of the weight, you know. So I would just say, first of all, love on yourself. Please love on yourself.
Mhm.
Please try not to get too hard on yourself. Monitor your self-talk because that can be very destructive, especially as a parent. Then it'll be piling on top of each other, piling on top of this and that. Um, but of course, allow them to express themselves. Make them feel like they can express themselves. And I know sometimes it can be cultural because sometimes we got to be so hard. We feel like we got to, we know the world we're living in, and we don't want certain realities to be our. So I would also say this last thing because sometimes it's about the way in which a person expresses him or herself. You know, for you it may be art. You know, for your child it may be music, and maybe sports that allows him or her to get out there, whatever. But I would say try to keep the lines of communication open and try not to be so hard on yourself, and try to listen with minimize parent ears, minimize my mad mama ears. Sometimes we have to do that. You know, that's all I would say without going into too much specifically. What about you, Emmy? Because you always have great, things to say about that.
Being a mom myself, um, and it's hard, especially as a mother, and I assume even harder if you're a single mother, right? It's hard to carry the weight of your child's emotions. But what we have to understand is our children are our inner child existing outside of us.
Ooh, deep.
Mhm.
You run that back? Ooh.
Mm. Our child is our inner child that
Mm.
exists outside of us, and we're seeing the potentiality that we did not have
Ooh.
living itself out in that real life, real time as a being outside of ourselves. And
Mm.
so maybe this is kind of just an opportunity for you to have a mirror of how you felt as a child and what you needed from your environment, and your environment did not know what to do.
Mm.
Our children tend to be very similar to us in the way we silently process things,
Mm.
right? They learn from us how to regard themselves by witnessing the ways in which we regard ourselves.
Mm. That's true.
And so, definitely not getting specific to a Lorene, but just, giving like a hypothetical example. If, say, I was a very angry child and now I'm just a chill adult because you know what? I've been through so much stuff. I've learned, like, it's really no big deal. It's no big deal. But as a child, I was extremely intense and everything was a big deal. And no one helped me to explain this,
Mm.
to realize this. And that's why I ended up living such a difficult young adulthood. Then it becomes this thing of, I had the benefit of the experiences, the suffering, and it led me to this place. Now, because I have this, I can gift this to my child by allowing them to know more of my history,
Mm.
speaking openly, like, you know what? Yeah, I see you're mad, but it's kind of an age thing. I was really mad when I was your age too. I don't even know why I was mad. Looking back, like, I took everything so intensely. I was so sensitive, and I couldn't take in what my parents were saying. I felt like they were just attacking me and judging me. Like the concept of how to fix it. Is your child broken? No, your child is going through their natural growth
Mm.
patterns, you
Deep.
know? So some of my children, well, all of my children are intense, but they express it in different ways, right? And so I never tell them that um their behavior is some symptom of being broken. Not saying that you are, but this is something that's important for all parents to know. I will not phrase things in a way where it will be received as I'm broken. That's why I act this way. It's like, hey, you know what? I really don't appreciate the behavior. What's going on? Because I'm not understanding where you're coming from. What made you mad? And, at first I'll be like, nothing. No, it's clearly something. And when you're ready to talk to me, you let me know. But I'm not going to accept this because it's not okay. And it's not that it's not okay because we don't deserve to be treated that way. It's not okay because that, and you don't deserve to live in a way where you don't feel heard or supported. So, um, it's hard. It's hard to get to that point where you can kind of find a neutral space and be able to speak neutrally like that. It takes a lot of learning how to control yourself because, there's times where I will tell my kid, like, you're irritating me. Just knock it off already. Like, that's irritating. Stop. Okay. My senses are overloaded. I've asked you to stop. Stop. And then they'll realize, like, okay, she's not joking. I really should stop. I'll give her space. She says the violence is a point I never resulted to against my siblings, so it's off and on that I'm left baffled every time. Do they only get attention when they get extremely violent? Is that what it is? Like they're taking out their aggression on the siblings because they feel like the siblings get more attention? Is it they feel like they've had to carry and it's not to say that you're forcing them to do these things, right? Or that you're ignoring their needs. Is to say that sometimes children will interpret things in a way that's completely removed from the reality of what's going on. Remember, regardless of their age, they do not have the life experience and the capacity to truly interpret in an accurate manner the situation that they're experiencing. That's not going to happen for a long time, probably until maybe late 20s, early 30s. That's when the human mind begins to develop the capacity to piece together all of these separate experiences and understand kind of their part in how they co-created situations and why it went the way it did. I don't know if psychology talks about this, but this is kind of just what I've witnessed time and time and time again with thousands of clients. Like, we typically don't reach a point of realization and discernment that's needed until like late 20s, early 30s, and some people not even then. Some people can be 40, 50, 60 years old and never reach that point. Depends on the type of emotional traumas that they experience that will create, if it's severe enough, it will create a lot of modifications, negative modifications to their brain function, sometimes even to the structure of the brain. So, there's a lot of stuff that factors in, a lot. Unfortunately, kids don't come with instruction manuals, and it's not mandated for us to take psychology as part of our learning on how to be, a healthy parent. A lot of it comes from trial and error. No, he possibly gets more attention than the younger ones, like he's dealing with two different people. Ooh, ooh, that's intense. How old is he, Aileen? Super curious. I'm wondering if he has latching.
15.
15? That's old enough to have a latching. Depending on some of the things that have been experienced in life, I've seen some kids as young as 7 have a latching. And if you're getting that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing, it's probably when the latching comes forward. Have you asked him when he goes through that and he flips to the darker aspect of himself? It started at 8. I think he got a latching at 7 and then he lost the control over it at 8. Yeah. Have you asked if he's able to control himself, or is it kind of just like he can't explain the behavior? And, for those of you who are wondering, I do work with families and children. I do private sessions with them. I'm not a trained psychologist. I'm not licensed in psychology or mental health. I look at the energetic aspect of things. Um, that's definitely that's a difficult thing for a parent to experience, and they blame themselves. That's why it's like this is a hard topic, very, very hard topic. And it's important for us to understand there are limitations to what a parent can do. Sometimes we have to remind ourselves our child chose us as their parent because of the potentiality of certain experiences, and this might be one of the experiences. And who knows, it could be this thing of he chose you to be his mom so that he could experience this, and you won't know what to do. And then you cross paths with me when he's ready, and then you will have him speak to me and I'll be able to help him. It could be something as simple as that, where that's why he's experiencing this. You guys remember, just because your child is experiencing this does not mean they are doomed or damned or any of that. I experienced a lot of this through much of my life. And that's the very trauma induced accretion that made it possible for all of the energetic pathways that are necessary for me to access and harness with intention and accuracy much of my gifts. This is not a bad thing. This is a difficult to understand thing, very difficult to understand thing, but it's not necessarily all just a bad thing. He can't explain it. It's reduced to they're just annoying. Yeah, no, he has latchings. He
Can
has.
you explain briefly what a latching is? I mean, if there's anyone who's kind of wondering out there, like what exactly is a latching? They may be kind of on it, but they may be like, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. A latching is the presence of a parasitic entity, a parasitic being. And this parasite will utilize behavioral modification techniques. It will use thought inception. It will create trauma, and then it will use that existing trauma as a way to further trigger and manipulate the individual. So it's kind of like ascension mechanics gone bonkers, right? The trauma induced secretion, where trauma is used to surge energy so you can, jump frequencies. And with latching, they do this to isolate the person. They do this to facilitate a feeding. They do this to kind of create a sense of like, see, everyone thinks you're crazy. Everyone just thinks you're crazy. You can't tell anyone any of this because yada, 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 yada. And all of these things, they consistently badger the consciousness of the individual. Now, for my body of work, I like to deal more in a more of like sterilized type of terms where the emotional aspect is removed. That's why I call it a parasite rather than a demonic presence. When you hear the word demonic or demon, immediately the programming kicks in and you're like, oh my God, there's nothing I can do. There absolutely is things you can do. It's a parasite. The behavior is parasitic. And when you have a parasite, you do the protocol to remove it. And that's that. That's why I call it a parasite rather than a demon. Right.
Yeah.
So it's basically that, there's something that is causing interference with the regular function of his thought processing, with his interpretation. It can be something where the latch point could be like on the Wernicke's area. That's the part of the brain that's responsible for interpretation of spoken, verbalized communication. There could be latchings across the frontal lobe. That's basically your personality center that helps you to decide things and, understand things and all of that. Um, Wait, what happened? Oh my. Okay. So she says the incident last night, he lashed out at the youngest immediately after my head was about to explode. Then my mouth started aching, and my mother told me he was dealing with the same ailments too. Yeah, it's a latching. Absolutely. It's a latching. You're a powerful mother, and it wanted to disable you first to be able to absolutely defend him. Absolutely. Then she says, that's crazy. My response last night was, you have no self-control. This didn't start until he began going around his father. Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
That's intense. That's intense. So there's a potentiality, and this is typically, I didn't go deeper into it earlier. This is typically how a child can get a latching at such a young age. Parental cords exist between the parent and child for the rest of their human life. That's not something you can unhook, dissolve, or cut, or any of that. Parental cords can be used by parasitic things. So if a parent has a parasite, it can absolutely go through that cord and it can anchor into the child using the parent's biological donation to the child. Right? It's a lot easier to do it through the mother because of the mitochondria, but also through the father. It definitely can. So I'm assuming, and it's just assumptions on my end, that that's what happened. He's probably highly empathic, highly gifted, highly sensitive, and he saw his father going through these things, and there was this part of him as a powerful soul. He was like, I will take it in, I will save my dad. But that was a manipulation. He didn't have the child, the level of experience, life experience, since he was a child, to recognize this is my father's struggle. I need my father to take care of this, and I should support my father by encouraging him to seek help. Children want to save their parents. They do. They want to save their parents. They want to protect their parents, and that's very unfortunate. It can be corrected. It can be corrected. It's
How?
going to take a lot of work. I'm sorry.
How?
A parasitic extraction. Sometimes it will take a series of extractions. You have to change. You have to consciously choose to change the dynamic you have with your child. A parent has the authority to do that, right? Speaking openly with your child, like, hey, you're 15, you're approaching adulthood. I want our relationship to change. I want us to have a healthy relationship. You're not going to be a child forever, and I need you to be healthy. I need this from you. So I need you to communicate with me what you need from me, because now you know what I need from you. And really being open to hearing things, really like taking accountability for the ways in which, if your child tells you, I feel like you failed me because blah, blah, blah. First, listen closely. No matter how good of a parent you are, your child will feel like you failed them in some way because they don't know any better, right? No matter what. As a parent who completely gave up my entire life for like 10, 15 years, I existed strictly for my children. No girls' night out, no, none of that. As a matter of fact, for every child that's born, for the first 2 years, I carry them on my chest, literally. The only time they are taken out of the Moby wrap, which is it's a tribal wrap around, it wraps around you and the baby. You were skin to skin for the first 2 years of their life. The only time they're put down is either we're going to go to sleep, or someone else wants to hold them, or they want to explore on the floor, whatever it is. But pretty much the whole day I'm cleaning, running errands, the baby's on me, right? It is not uncommon for me to have 3 children on me at one time. Like everyone's like, you crazy for that. No, I'm a mother. That's my identity. But even with that, you could ask one of my kids and be like, mommy, this, and this. I'm like, forgot those years, huh? You forgot those years. And that's the thing, though. They don't have the awareness to know. And really, there's not enough time in the day to satisfy their desire to be with you, interact with you. One of my kids talks nonstop, and I'm just like, I'm overloaded. I'm overloaded. I can't answer any more questions. I'm so stressed out because I don't know the answers to these tests.
In all fairness, he has some pretty darn complex questions.
Girl, he tried to like simplify a lot of the things for me recently. Now it's not so much testing questions. Like, I love it, but it just overwhelmed me because my brain is analytic.
Mhm.
He's reduced it to like, Do you want to see the puppy's sibling and how they supported each other?
Oh my gosh, I can see him so.
So he's like toned it down for me. And that's like the perfect
Yeah,
show of how our
yeah,
children are so
yeah,
sensitive to us, right?
yeah.
And if you communicate, the child usually, especially if you start it young, the child will usually self regulate. They
Mhm,
will modify their own behavior to live up to the expectation you have of them.
mhm,
And that's something that I realized with children very, very early on. They will only ever live up to your expectation of them,
mhm.
right? I'll never call any of my children the bad kid. Oh, this one's a naughty one. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say this is the intense child.
Mhm.
He's working on it. He's progress. He was super intense. Now he's not so intense. He's got Aries. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
He's chill. He's chilling. Just don't mess with him.
Never ask us how did the child get so intense. Never ask us where may that have come from.
For me,
Well, see, I got it. Calmness, I got it. So,
yeah, no, and I see that my child that's the most intense is the
Mhm.
child that is most like me, the part of me that's buried the deepest.
Mhm.
But because he feels so safe with me, that's been allowed to surface. And
Mhm.
he was intense as a toddler.
Mhm.
I don't know if I let you watch that video of the seal, the baby.
Yes, the
That was
boy.
his voice. Is that he got mad at our senior citizen dog when he was a toddler, right? And she was terminally ill at that point.
Mhm.
And he dropped his little baby carrot and she ate it.
Mhm.
And he came up to me. He's like, "Oh, Mama, hey, she ate my little baby carrot." I was like,
The voice though.
old. I had to explain to him. She's old. She's very sick. Maybe she needs
Yeah.
to feel better. And he was like, "No, he's my little baby carrot."
Oh my gosh.
It's hard. It's hard as a parent to
Mhm.
really understand our own limits as well,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of all the way around this need to better understand. Um, Let's see. She says, I searched the website last night looking for something. Am I even able to agree to a clearing with the age he is? His father thrives in chaos, and I don't allow in my space. He can't reach me. That's why he does it through the children.
Mhm.
Whatever his latching is, they do it through the children.
Mhm.
Yeah. Your oldest might be the most sensitive, the most empathic.
Mhm.
Yeah. Were you stressed out a lot when you were pregnant with your oldest?
Mhm.
Because when the mother is experiencing trauma as she's pregnant, the baby is bathed in those hormones.
Mhm.
That's a part of their character, their brain function, brain development, the way they perceive the world.
Mhm.
It's not that, oh, it's your fault. It's that you have to understand this can be a gift
Mhm.
because he's so sensitive. If he's given the type of support he needs, meaning, an understanding of the way his energy works, the way he can harness it, not that you don't support him, but the way that he needs, to understand himself,
Mhm.
he can harness that and become extremely powerful in the most beneficial, benevolent way.
Mm.
It's
I love
powerful.
that. I love that. And how important do you think it is for us to teach the children to use their gifts responsibly,
Oh,
to exercise wisdom
yeah.
and humility? How, what do you think about that?
It's
Especially when you know they're very gifted and
yeah.
you know the environment, you can't control all the environments and there will be temptation to misuse their powers. How do you handle that?
You need to teach them from day one, if possible. For most of us, we didn't know any of this, and our children are whatever age they are already. You need to begin as soon as you have the awareness of the need to begin.
Mm,
Some of the ways you can do that is by, the whole monkey see, monkey do. Children don't learn from us preaching to them, lecturing them, condemning them, shaming them. They don't learn that way. They
mm,
learn by witnessing how you handle yourself,
mm, mm,
right? So, like for example, yesterday I went to Hobby Lobby, the craft store, with my most intense child. Right, he wanted to come with me. I was like, "Sure, let's go." The whole thing with we were in line and some lady didn't realize we were in line and she was trying to be a little bit snotty to us. And I was just like, like, And when we got to the car, I could have just left it at that, where I was feeling smug that we got out before her, but I didn't, because that was an important thing for me to show my child my internal processing. And I was like, "Did you notice that lady?" And he's like, "Yeah." And of course he's going to be protective of me. I'm his mother, right? And he's learning there, like, what is the best way to handle things. And I was telling him, like, it's no big deal, but I think it's just kind of funny that she did all that and she's still ended up in the store waiting while we're done. So, we didn't have to say anything. We didn't have to say anything. We just needed to make sure that we understood we didn't do anything wrong. We didn't deserve that. And, she is who she is, and that's that. That's that. Where it's like you're learning, you don't have to show up for every single fight. You don't have to answer every call, right? And then, when we got home, I was telling my husband, I was joking around. I was like, "I almost got in a fight today." He's like, "What?" And I goes, Cray. He'd be like, "Oh, if I was there," I'm like, "Come on."
Right.
And, so my son's kind of joking around too. And he's like, "Oh, she would have caught a hot one for me," or whatever he said. Right. And I was like, "No, you weren't going to fight anyone." And he kind of just smiled like, but that's the thing, is that they're going
to protect the parents.
They'll mirror their parent. Like, this is a child where my cousin was like his favorite person as a toddler. Just totally his favorite person. He's always super sweet with her. And one day we were at her house visiting, and her and I, we joke around, right? We call each other names. We're close. And she called me the B word as he was walking past. We're joking though.
Right.
Oh, he swung around. Oh my God. His little smoker voice. Pointing his little thing. He must have been like 2 years old. I was like,
I feel him. Even though cousin was playing, I feel him.
And my cousin doesn't take disrespect. She's the kind of kid like, "I will smack you out." Even she was like, I'm sorry, Mama. I was joking." And I was like, "Don't be joking around."
Yeah.
But even she was thrown off, because it's like he carried that conviction of, my mother is to never be disrespected.
That's
So it's that thing of, especially when you're close with your child, they will do anything and everything, including hating themselves. That's difficult. It's very, very hard. A child is more likely to reject themselves than they are to reject their malignant parent. And that psychology has proven. Psychology has absolutely proven that.
And can I ask you this too? Because I'm the type of person, I absolutely think that it's important to address things on several levels. There's a lot of stigma about counseling, right? What do you think about the combination of an energetic approach and, if and when needed, seeking counseling too? What do you think about that?
Do you want my honest opinion?
I do. I like the fake stuff. And I know you're going to give it to me. So yes, I want.
Most counselors, most mental health professionals, I do not trust, especially with information regarding my children. I do not trust them.
I understand that.
Yeah. You've been in that industry. There's a lot of people who don't care. And that can get you and your entire family into a world of like, oh my gosh, I should have never said anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the flip side of that, if you were to speak with someone who understood neurodivergent children, typically mental health professionals who delve into the realm of neurodivergency, they are passionate. They want to help. They love the children. Those people I have a tendency to really, really trust and bond with. Absolutely.
Yeah. And especially empathic counseling. help
Yes.
too. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I had the honor, the absolute honor of being connected with specialists
Mhm.
who specialize in profoundly gifted children.
Mm,
And
I love that.
so, it was this thing of she completely understood, because my children are extremely intelligent, right? Uh,
Mhm.
for my specific child who she really helped me to understand how to most healthily parent. He was doing college level anatomy at like 2 years old.
Mm.
So, he was invited to Stanford to be a student. Like Stanford invited him. I didn't reach out.
Yes.
We
Yes.
certainly just
Yeah.
got a notice. And she helped me to understand that all of these other people, they don't deal with children like him.
Mhm.
And the sad thing is, he's simply on the other end of the spectrum, but he is as disabled as a
Mhm.
child who is physically and mentally disabled, but
Mhm.
on the other end of the spectrum.
Get
And so
that.
we won't receive that support. We
Mhm.
won't.
Mhm.
I was telling her because I was trying to get him to qualify for an educational grant. It's
Mhm.
$25,000. I could hire specialists, private tutors, all of that using that money.
Mhm.
And I told her what happened during his IQ testing. He was like 3. Um, Girl, I was like, what? So we were granted an IQ test through our insurance. We could only get one. And with that, he got bored halfway through because even at 3, he saw the pattern of the questions. They were asking the same question, according to him, over and over
Most people need to catch on.
again.
Personality test for employment.
Girl. And so halfway through, he's like, I don't know. I don't know. And then finally he told them, I need to use the bathroom just to be done with it.
Mhm.
Right. So he admits this to me. And I was like, why would you do that? Like, we need you to score at least a 145 so that you can get all of the help that we need to get for you. And he's like, don't worry, mommy. I calculated it and I scored that much. Oh,
Wow.
he didn't carry a number or something because he scored 143. So
Oh,
we were barred from receiving that grant.
yeah.
And I was telling her that I had told his doctors, and that the doctors were like, no, but he's really smart. And she's like, yeah, no, that's typical. They're like, they've never seen a child like him. They don't understand the capacity that he can function. And so they're like, this is good enough. And she had spent some time with him,
Mhm.
chatted with him privately, and played with him and stuff. And she told me, based on her interactions with him, and she specializes with profoundly gifted, he would be in excess of 180. She's like, oh, he was just bored. They didn't stimulate him during that test. He saw
Mm.
the patterns. And I said, exactly.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, some of the children that are being born and the struggles that the parents have is the child is so smart
Mhm. Mhm.
that if you don't carry the same level of intensity and intelligence, they'll disregard you.
Mhm.
Yeah. I've
Mhm.
had a couple experiences where, one of my children or a couple of them have tested that at some age to see if they could get over on me. And I'm like, honey, who do you think you got your intelligence from?
Mhm. Right. Run that back. Say it again. Say it again.
Like, knock it off. I know what you're doing.
I
They're like,
gave
no,
birth to
I'm
the
not.
game.
Mhm. I was like, I tried that on my parents, okay?
Right.
You know, and
Where do you
so
think you come from? You think you're the game? I gave birth to the game
I am the game.
and the game. I thought I just thought about it.
Oh my god. Let's look at a couple more of the questions. Let me scroll back up. Because there were quite a few really good questions.
Mm.
Let's see. Uh Oh, I love this comment. Mariah says, my neighbor always plows the whole block's driveways. My daughter took him hot chocolate yesterday.
Oh, I love that. That's so sweet.
Yeah. I love when we encourage children to show appreciation for, when people go above and beyond what's necessary. So that's
Mhm.
beautiful.
It is.
Um, let's see.
As you're looking for the next question, So, tribe, have we remembered to like, share, and subscribe? I like to type that in the comment section, but I would like to know, have you all given us this love stream a like yet? Have you subscribed? And there are lots and lots of great perks for subscribers. You never know when she's just going to pop up and show some sub love. She does.
I do. And you can't participate if you can't comment because you're not subscribed.
Mhm,
Say it.
mhm.
Lisa has a really good question. Is that the incubus succubus that violates someone like
Mm,
regarding spiritual SA? Um, it's typically that type of demonic presence that will do that. Incubus, succubus can occupy a human body. And
mm,
so it's typically one of those. That's what the person is infested with.
mm.
Yeah. If they're using a human to introduce their energy to you,
Mm.
definitely. Let's see.
And you do have services that help to address those issues, correct?
Yes. Yes. Um, Ooh, this right here. I have a daughter that's currently in college. She's very much antisocial and an empath. She dreads when it comes to public speaking, like myself at her age. How can I best guide her through this? I think it's best to look back and see how you guided yourself through it
Mm,
and to kind of make small modifications for the differences in your personality, and encourage her in that way, also reminding her that you were just like her at that age and that you were able to work through it, and to give her the types of tools that you used to work through that so that she could have that knowing at a much earlier age than you were able to discover it. That would be probably the best way. Another way, like how I did, most people don't realize how introverted I am in real life. I live stream and I rationalize that I'm speaking to a green dot. There is no one in the room with me. I'm speaking to a green dot and I'm just seeing letters go up the side of the screen.
wow.
Right. So that's one way that I got more comfortable with speaking. She can also create a character. I have a character that exists within me that is a public speaking professional character. I can bring that out at on demand. If I have to do work stuff, people don't realize. Well, now they do, but until I began really live streaming in my most authentic state, people didn't realize that I have the sense of humor that I have. That just my personality. Period, because people only ever saw work Emmie, right? Where it's like, hello, how are you doing today? So today I'd like to discuss a few different things with you. Do you have the time to do that? Is that okay? And now I'm like, hey, what's up? Hey.
All of it. We love the totality that you are.
Thank you. But those are some ways. Those are some ways, and maybe one way will work better than another for her. I think you probably have a good idea of which different techniques you can use to encourage more of her to come out. Yeah, this right here.
Ooh.
Our child is our inner child living outside of ourselves. That was such a profound realization for me when I realized that.
Absolutely. And illuminating manuscripts. I think that the last podcast we had, you sent Emmy a donation. And I'm in the comment section, but it was on the podcast this time. So I would have usually said thank you, but thank you for that. We always love to see her being appreciated. So thank you so much for that.
I must have missed that too, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. I think we were discussing something quite intense and we were talking, verbally and everything like that. But
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, thank you, Illuminating Manuscripts, and thank you, Ocean, for letting me know I missed that. Yeah, I definitely like to show appreciation for people who support in that way as well. Ooh, this Lisa says,
Mhm.
may I just say I was a single mom of 3 after leaving DV, and I assumed my kids would be better, happier after I left. Even though I put them in counseling, I didn't realize how much they absorbed. So here's the thing. This is part of what I realize. When you're in a very difficult situation like that, you try your best. And then afterwards, when you have the ability to, you leave that situation. And it's your hope that, being in a quieter, less chaotic space, your children can heal. Here's the thing though, part of the healing process is allowing a lot of that suppressed trauma to finally rise to the surface.
Mm,
And
mm,
so it's going to be a very difficult process. Most people, not just children, they will completely shut down for the first couple months, maybe even year or two after they exit out of that very, very bad situation. And the body is needing more rest. It
mm,
might seem like they're depressed, they can't do anything. They
mm.
have a tendency to just sleep all the time, feel a lot of intense emotions. These are things that were needing to be processed, but never were allowed to because
Ooh.
they were in consistent fight or flight survival mode.
Mm,
So it's more than just how much they absorbed. You were tasked to be the parent, to witness their healing process. It takes a long time. It takes a long time just to dig through everything. It's not even the including the process of sifting and organizing, categorizing, and placing on shelves and boxes and getting rid of some of those thoughts and programs is a very, very long time. For some, it might take their entire life. So you be gentle with yourself, okay, Lisa?
indeed.
Yeah. Let's see. Renee says, my 4-year-old daughter has told me she's afraid of the dark and she's never been afraid of the dark before. She says the white light people fly around at night and wake her up. What can I tell her or sir, teach her to defend herself? So, Renee, has she told you what the white light people do? Ooh, as Renee is typing, I'm assuming she's typing. Esme says, "Thank you, Emmy. I'm afraid that she would have to experience trauma to find her voice. She
Mm,
lost her voice because of the trauma."
mm, mm,
Yes.
mm,
So if she needs to experience another trauma to find her voice, it will be an angry one.
mm,
So, as her mom, as the woman that she is modeling herself to be, you have to coax out the softness in her voice and to encourage her to recognize that the most powerful ones speak in a whisper.
mm,
That to be so powerful that you can communicate in the calmest, most neutral tone, that's really the indication of you tapping into your power.
mm,
Typically, when people challenge me, especially in person, and they're trying to get very combative with me, I don't yell. It's not going to be a case of who can yell more. It's going to be this thing of you're going to feel my energy wrap around you, and I'm going to speak to you in this tone, and you're going to know you will respect me. And that's that, that's
hey,
that. And if not, then conversation is done, right? So it's important for women, especially, to learn you don't have to find your voice by experiencing trauma. Encourage your softness to be seen as the power that it is. Could you imagine how powerful a mother is when she's in her softest spaces, especially for her children? She has the ability to mold children even through softness. That's powerful. It's very, very powerful. I'm not sure if Renee had to. Oh, there she is. She said they touch her and wake her up. They fly around the room. I've asked her if she feels afraid, and she says yes because they're bright and they fly. Tell her to clip their wings.
mm,
Tell her to make their feet heavy like lead so that they have to stand there, and tell her to tell them, if you move faster than what I'm comfortable with, I'll kick you out of my room. And show her something like, hiya! Hiya! Go like that. Make it funny, but have her practice the moves she's going to use to yeet them out of the room. And that way she learns, I have the authority to defend myself and to cultivate my space. I don't have to ask for permission. They must comply or they cannot stay. And it's important for children to learn this. A lot of what society teaches children is that Children must listen. They must obey. You're teaching them how to do that as an adult, you know? So, yes, my children can be mouthy, but they have to be mouthy in a respectful way. And if mommy says that's enough, that means you've taken it too far. It doesn't mean you can't speak. It means, hey, you've lost sight of what you're trying to communicate. I'm going to need you to correct yourself before you communicate any further. Right. For the most part, I don't have to yell at my kids. I'll just be like, hey, and they're like, sorry, mommy. They're like, I don't think so. We're not doing that here. You know, remember when my mini me made that joke at the restaurant because the girl spilled the water?
Oh my gosh. Guys, it was so funny. He was so quick with it. It's hilarious. It was hilarious.
I don't know if she heard it, but I was like, hey.
I hope she didn't hear it. Because it was hilarious and it made perfect sense. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I hope she did hear it though, but it was funny.
Yeah.
Maybe she would have laughed. I don't I may have laughed, but I'm a different type of person.
Girl, I had to swallow my laughter. I was like, no, don't encourage it. Yeah, no, she just spilled a tray full of cups of water. And she brought more water out. And mind you, the floor was still soaking wet. And she says, I'll just set this down right here. And he said something like, oh, you've already set down quite a bit. I was like, and he was so pleased with himself. And
like it's just this matter of fact. It's hilarious. Oh my gosh. I'm like, you know what? I'm glad that these two are sitting away from one another. You don't need them to occupy the same space at the same time. Not in that proximity. No.
Yeah, no, I sometimes have to remind him, like, hey, I mean, your joke is funny, but you know, that might hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah, yeah, and that's important too. That's important too.
So it's not that his jokes are the issue. It's that you know, there's a time and a space. Be mindful of how it affects others.
That's
what is the best way to heal the inner child abandonment trauma from having absent mother? To be your own mother, to mother yourself. That's just my opinion. To stop seeking a mother outside of yourself, because my mom worked a lot when I was a kid. Like a lot. She would work 16-hour shifts, 6 to 7 days a week, all the way for like 30 years or so. And so, you know, she worked in a hospital, and as a nurse, you make double time and a half, something like that, on holidays. So every holiday she was working. And it was this thing of, I felt very abandoned as a child. I could not rationalize, but I understand so much now as a working mom that, you know, there's just certain things. And then you lose sight of how much time you've spent working versus how much time with the children. So until I reached that point of realization that my mother was a regular woman doing the best that she could in a subprime situation, I was seeking mothers, other women who would mother me. But the thing was, because I carried the toxicity within myself, the distortion, what I would consistently find were women who are willing to stand in the mother role for me, who were even more toxic than my mother. So after I stopped trying to find a mother figure to replace my mother, and to just appreciate the mother that I have, and to know that she's a mother I needed, even especially when I didn't understand, I began to take it upon myself to mother myself, you know, to do the things that I needed to make sure that I wasn't repeating the same patterns that I learned from my mom, where it's like I have to martyr myself. Because my mom, she martyred herself a lot. Everything was for everyone else. She was just very kind, very loving person, very generous. And I had to learn to not be a repeat of the ways in which she created even more unhappiness for herself.
Mm,
And with that, it healed me. It healed my relationship with my mother because I no longer had that anger and resentment towards her. And I
mm,
began to realize, like, you know what? She was the best mom she possibly knew how to be, you
mm,
know? And it's this thing of, um, I was just a very intense child. And even if she did everything perfectly, it would not be enough for me because I wanted to spend literally all day with her.
mm.
So it's just these realizations, letting yourself have the time and the space to feel safe enough to come to these realizations where there's no blaming. There's just a learning and a growing and expansion of your awareness. So that's very, very important. Let's see. I'm struggling with my granddaughter who's 17 and she has no drive or motivation. She's had multiple businesses her mother started for her, but she doesn't follow through with any. We've tried everything. She doesn't want to do what her mother does. She doesn't want to be told what to do. She doesn't want anyone to control her. If She needs to be allowed to be who she is. And if there's no motivation, it's because she's feeling like she's being forced to be someone who she is not authentically. Look into pathological demand avoidance. There's a potentiality that she might have um, some type of placement on the autism spectrum. She might be a very high functioning. She might have ADHD. ADHD and autism usually are comorbidities. They usually go hand in hand. She might also have some type of sensory processing going on, like overwhelming. I feel like a lot of things, like everything is being pushed on her, is the way she receives it rather than seeing it as I'm being supported and encouraged. Kids have this weird way of really just taking something and turning it into something it is not at all. So it's not that you guys are doing that to her, it's that I'm picking up that she is receiving it potentially in that way. I hope that makes sense. um Ooh, I could do that. I could definitely do that. That's something that wow, that affects a lot of people.
Yes, it really and truly does. And Lily was just asking if I thought it would help. And I think that it will help. And I think that it's also important for us to remember that a lot of times these things are multi pronged. There's so many levels, there's so many layers. And then, you add a person's individual history, their generational story, their environment, all of these things matter. Culture, all of these things matter. Single mother, single father, single mother who's married, that
Ooh.
you always think about, but these things matter. These things really and truly matter. There's so many levels. And even the dimension of let's say there's a single mother. Okay, sometimes that single mother, especially depending on her environment, her, background, everything, she may have to put aside her softness. She may have the ability to be soft, but she may have to put aside her softness because, hey, she's the only one. When it, comes down to it, she's the only one. She could have girls, or she could have boys, or she could have a mixture. You could have the next person who is in a marriage, but it's like they don't get the support. So they're still married, but they're, not getting the support like a married mother or married father would get. You may have the father who loves his daughter, and he's struggling trying to raise his daughter. He's never been a female, just like a woman has never been a male in this life. And so there's so many different layers. But I think that shouldn't stop us from understanding that there are steps that we can take. The journey is not completed all in one step or two. The mountain is not climbed in one step. They say you don't eat a mountain in one bite. Chada was, who eats a mountain? But I get the proverb still because I love proverbs and everything. So, these things matter. I think if we kind of start thinking in terms of what can I do right here, right now? What can we do as a collective, as a community, right here and right now? I think that we can start to shift some things, probably more than we even imagine.
It's more powerful to shift 1 degree at a time than it is to try and pick yourself up, do a 180 and drop yourself off.
Yeah.
That's not sustainable, and it causes you to lose sight of what it is that you were intending to do in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're not trying, don't make it a goal to become someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Make it a goal to release all of these preconceived notions of who you are, these opinions that other people have given you about yourself. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of times you don't even show people who you are. So, how could their opinions ever be accurate enough to really be your truth? It's not. This right here, Michael wanted me to address. What about total abandonment when they don't want to be bothered at all?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make clear this comes from Michael, not me. Okay. So when he communicates, it has a tendency to be much more gruff and just very matter of fact. Michael says we have to, for some of us, we have to accept that the role our mother agreed to play was to simply bring us to fruition, meaning to give birth to you and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's harsh, that hurts, um, but that's kind of the reality of it. We
Mm-hmm.
can't force a relationship with someone who doesn't have the capacity to have a healthy relationship with anyone, right? Not everyone has the capacity to do that. And sometimes we have to understand and accept that part of the agreement we have with our biological mother is to simply bring us into physical form, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily an abandonment or a rejection in regards to spirituality, in regards to energy. Now, on a human level, absolutely you are going to feel abandoned. But here's the thing, maybe if we can shift it 1 degree at a time by allowing ourselves to see it in a way where it's like, it's not that my mother didn't want me, it's that she doesn't have the capacity to give me the experiences in life that I need. And so I've been given the opportunity to create a life without her, to find healthier women to stand in as mother figures for me at certain points in my journey. Right? Because how special are you and how loved are you to have 5 or 6 women step in as your mother?
What about the woman who has no one like that? I want to ask about that. And also on the flip side, it can be, and I can only imagine, but I know it can be very hard and painful for a person to have to come to terms with that. Sometimes a person really may need to come to terms with that to be able to live his or her life, as fully as he or she can live it. But what about the child that's struggling through that,
Mhm.
struggling through the sense of abandonment? Oh, my father didn't want me. My mother didn't want me. And what about when you have a whole generation of an overwhelming majority of youths that have that same struggle? What does that look like, and what do we do?
That creates tremendous, tremendous reserves of rage.
Mm,
What do? Use your rage for critical rebellion.
mm,
Any areas of your life where you need critical support, rebel against the need to depend on someone.
mm,
Be the most powerful being you could potentially be. That's how I survived life.
mm,
And then when you're at your strongest, you will come across the people who will remind you about your softness. And
mm,
you'll be able to return back to a space of softness and grace. It's all about how you choose to proceed after everything is said and done,
mm.
right? So, a lot of people, if they knew the type of traumas that I've been through, they would be like, how are you still laughing? Why do you still want to help people? I mean, I would be hateful if I were you. And I'm kind of like, who says I haven't been?
Mm,
Who
mm,
says I haven't hated people at some point quietly, silently within myself?
mm,
But it comes to this point in my journey, my personal journey, where I had to take ownership of the fact that I am not a child anymore.
mhm,
And I have the power and the authority to absolutely create the type of environment that I need, that I deserve, that I want.
mm,
Right? How did our community on YouTube come to be?
mm,
Pure rage filled rebellion.
mm.
That's it. Just absolutely full of rage. And if you look at me at the very start of me switching over to YouTube, you'd never tell. You wouldn't be able to tell. You're like, oh my gosh, who's this cute little girl? She speaks so softly. Oh, she's funny. And it's this thing of it's okay for you to find different ways to cope, right? And it's also okay for you to enter into a space where you're no longer willing to cope. And now you're finding the courage to actually begin truly healing. And as I began to truly heal, I'm less and less willing to mask myself and my emotions. Now I'm like, what the hell you say to me in the comments? You're out. You're out. You're just out. We're not doing that here, you know? And there is still this part of me that when I have to exert my boundaries in that way, um I do still feel some type of like shame, like, oh my god, that's so embarrassing. Why do I act this way? Why can't I just like quietly ban? No, because I'm serving as a template for other people, so they need to be able to see like, oh, I can tell people no. One of my Facebook friends, they posted this meme, right, where it's like, let's normalize telling people I don't care in the middle of a conversation. I commented, that's not normal.
Okay.
I'm
Hilarious.
not supposed to do that. I don't know, because
Mhm.
I mean, there's been times where people will be talking to me. I'm out somewhere and they'll be trying to like argue with me about something. I don't know. Maybe they're having a bad day and they think I'll take it. I'm just like, I'm sorry, I don't care. And I'll walk away. Like, no, no, you're not sucking me into that. I
Yeah.
don't know how else to tell you. I literally don't care. I don't want bad for you. But yeah, so I commented that, and then everyone on his post was like, OMG. I'm like, is that not normal?
What was that thing you played one time? Was it Plies? You want to argue. I
Oh,
can argue with you. You bad.
you
You
big man. You wanna argue.
argue.
Yeah. So, when I saw that post, I was kind of having this conversation with Michael. My friend, because I was serious, I wasn't being sarcastic. I was like, "Oh, that's not normal." And I don't know. I'm on the autism spectrum. Like, I don't know. I'm just about being very direct. And Michael and I, we were talking. I was in the car, and he basically was like, I function in a way where I'm less politically correct and more spiritually direct. And I was like, "Oh, okay. But do I still have to be polite?" As I'm, and then I realized, okay, maybe there's other ways that I could have, instead of just like blurring out, I don't care, and being completely emotionless, maybe I could be like, I'm not sure if you're going through something today, but I'm just going to excuse myself. This is making me uncomfortable. And then walking away, right?
It
So
depends on the situation for me personally, because for some, they need to hear that I don't care. But for some, I can take a more empathic approach. But for some, the best I can do for you is tell you this. You want some other stuff, and I'm not with
I love, can I just tell you, I love, yeah, oh, no, they're on some other stuff. They're on some, she's like, no, we're wiping that away from us, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. Real quick.
Yeah. I mean, true. Some people do need that very, that very just direct, like no emotions, just very blunt.
Mhm.
Some people do. I don't typically just blurt out to people like, I don't care. I will stop responding and going into, whatever text message or like if they take it too far with me and just like,
Yeah.
no, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exit the group chat.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll post a picture first of a screenshot of this image that says Jesus has left the chat.
Oh God.
And then I'll put the deuces and then I'll exit and then I'll be giggling. And then you'll see their three dots still bouncing.
Like bounce, bounce like them dots shouted.
Yep.
Bounce.
Let's see. Does anyone else have any other questions that they want to? Ooh, this right here. I've come to the conclusion that my dad didn't leave me or my sisters. He left the toxic situation him and my mom were in, and I applaud
Mm,
him. Yeah. Yep. And that's the thing, as adults, if you were in a situation where one parent left, we have to find a way to make sense of the reality that that parent had an issue with the other parent and they couldn't work through it as adults, and that you are not the issue. You have to heal that wound. You have to allow yourself to begin processing that maybe a lot of the things you've heard as a child from the parent you were left with were angry words that might not be rooted in reality. you
mm,
know that's hard. It's hard. You're an adult now, but for the most part, when you go through something as intense as that, as painful as that, you remain that child forever within yourself.
mm,
That child is afraid to move forward. It waits there for the other parent for the rest of your life.
mm,
And again, some parents don't have the capacity to come back for you where you were left, where you feel you were left.
mm,
That's a very difficult thing. Very, very, very difficult thing. That's a huge accomplishment, Billy. Huge, huge, huge accomplishment.
mm,
So, I mean, and you guys don't have to get to a point where you applaud the parent, but to come to the realizations that, things were much more toxic than I realized because I was a child and I didn't know any better. That
mm,
was the norm. The toxicity was the norm. And so, I kind of need to reassess my childhood as I once thought it was.
mhm,
Clearly, it wasn't what I thought. You
mhm.
know, I know several people who, when their children were toddlers, um, I witnessed them actively negatively programming the child to hate the other parent.
Yeah,
That's not good.
it's
You
not.
know.
It's
You
not.
know.
And then too, I don't think some of us realize that as parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, as adults, period, you know, sometimes these children are taking in things that are said about the
Mm,
other parent, and they're like, well, I come from him or I come from her, so this must be what I am. This must be how you really feel about me. And I want to ask you this too. I know we're kind of getting down on time. I want to ask you this real quick. There's a spectrum because there is such as us not saying enough
mm,
to children about our own internal processes. And we may have our own reasons, but there still is such as not saying enough to children about certain things. And on the other side of the spectrum, there is such as saying way too goddamn much, excuse me, children about certain things.
yeah.
Well, how do we find that balance? And I'm talking about things that are true. I'm not talking about things that are not true, or you mad at the other parent, you mad at the mother, so you saying this about the child, or you the grandparent and you got beef with the, other. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about things that are true, but things that, maybe it's a bit much, especially for the child's age. What is that balance? Because some people are like, I don't want to keep anything from my children. I want my children to know everything. Is there danger in that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You run the risk of programming your child to believe wholeheartedly that it's their job to save you from all your bad decisions.
Mm.
It's not their job to save you from your bad decisions.
Mhm.
So, for me personally, my personal thoughts is that I also want my children to know that, I'm an open book for you. I'll explain things to you and share details with you, but it has to be age appropriate.
Mm.
It
I
has
feel
to be age appropriate.
yes.
And, there are times where if it's not age appropriate, I will be like, when you're older, we can definitely talk about it. But I think right now, this is a little too much for the age you're
Mhm.
at. And
Yeah.
I don't want you to feel like you have to be stressed out about adult stuff.
Yeah.
You're not even an adult yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are times where, like, I think it was a few weeks back or a month or so back, whatever it was. Um, I raised my voice at my husband, right? I don't remember what he said. It was something about work stuff, and so I raised my voice because it's like, no, we take accountability in this house. And my one of my younger ones was like, "Why'd you yell at dad?" And it wasn't like a severe cussing out, but I raised my voice.
Mhm.
And he's very sensitive, and he's like, "Why'd you yell at dad?" And I was like, "Well, here's the thing. I'm sorry. I'm sure that upset you, but I will not accept that type of response. And that should have been something we discussed privately, not in the kitchen.
Mm.
And so I'm still upset. That's why my voice was raised. And it's probably a better way to do it, but I was full of emotion and I needed to um, speak up for myself.
Mm.
Now, my husband wasn't like verbally attacking me or anything like that, but I'm very sensitive to people's tones and the
Mhm.
way they respond. And I absolutely took offense to the tone he used when he responded to me. And
Mm.
so I have to explain myself to my child.
Mm.
Like he asked me, so I have to respond and I have to tell him, as adults, we should have spoken about this privately.
Mm.
And I'm sorry that this is how we started your morning, that you had to hear that. But I felt it was important for me to say something.
Mm.
And he was like, okay, and it's like, there's no love lost between my husband and I.
Right. Yes.
But, in that moment, I felt like, okay, well, then I'm going to respond.
Mm.
I was also on my period. So mm,
Okay.
hormones kicked in. But, that's the thing is that my children know that I take accountability. And it was about accountability where it's like, well, I was blah, blah, blah. I think it was like, I don't remember what it was. It was something with emails and someone forgot to respond or something like that. And it was just this thing of like, no, we all need to hold ourselves accountable in this house. No one is going to be giving any kind of excuses for anything. A
Mm.
simple, like, you know what? I need to take care of that. And I won't have anything to say.
Mm.
Right. So, I feel that although that was probably upsetting for my child, that was definitely a learning experience for all of us.
Mm.
Right. Where, okay, there's an issue that's an adult issue. It needs to be discussed strictly between adults, not, openly talked about in the kitchen where, someone's eating or, to someone we don't want to be stressed out by a disagreement is there to hear it.
Mm.
So our kids know that there are certain things where I will explain in a very matter of fact way if it's age appropriate.
Right.
Not age appropriate, then I will tell you straight up, like, I know you're a little bit concerned and I know that you want to know so that you can understand, but it's not really age appropriate. If
Mhm.
there was something really seriously wrong, I would tell you. But, it's just like the usual adult drama. It's no biggie. Family members argue. There's things that, sometimes family members don't agree. It could be something with an aunt, an uncle, whatever it is, right? It's not always with the parent, but
Mhm.
the children, my children, they understand like, okay, so, you know, adults are arguing and we just kind of got to stay out of it. Yeah, let the adults figure it out. And there's been times where like one time I was arguing with one of my siblings and it was intense.
Mhm.
And one of my younger ones was like, I didn't like it when you argued with uncle like that. It really stressed me out.
Mm.
next time, can we just leave?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, you're right. You're right. That
Mm,
got the best of me. And I responded in a way that was less than what I am. You're right. Thank you for pointing that out. I think there's not going to be a next time
mhm.
because that was the last straw.
Mm,
Like how that happened in front of you guys.
yeah.
And I even went so far as to explain to my children, that's what we grew up with. So
Mm-hmm.
to some relatives, that's normal. It's not normal for our family.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm choosing to no longer be around that.
Nice.
And that's when my kids were like, "You're right. That's not normal for us." I'm like,
Mm,
"Yeah, no, we're not going to disrupt our family anymore in that way. No more." So, but of course, I didn't go into the specifics of the whys and how
right.
it's manipulative and pathologies, and like my kids don't need any of that. You know what I mean? My kids definitely don't need any of that. Those are details that they can learn in school, right?
Mm,
About pathology and psychological disturbances. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So let's see. Ooh, in 2017, I became what I was told. That's such a powerful statement.
Mm,
One that really, really hurts.
mm,
Ooh, okay. So the earlier comment, my mother, grandmother, and aunts would say, you're just like your dad." Oh my God, that is so hurtful.
mm. Yeah.
Ooh, I feel that. Oh, that is so hurtful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And especially, I'm not gonna say especially, it makes it more potent. A child could not look anything like the other parent, but I think especially that child takes it extra hard when that child looks like the mother, looks like the father. You're just like such and such, and you're gonna be just like a you ain't such and such. Your mama ain't such and such. Your daddy ain't. You ain't never gonna be such and such. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna tell y'all that is the norm in so many households. It's the norm. It's the norm. Children growing up without the other parent, and the parent that's left. They're frustrated and everything. They're hurt. I understand a lot of stuff, whatever. I know the anatomy of it, but these children are hearing all kinds of things, and I don't think sometimes the parent means to be hurtful like that, or the grandmother means to be hurtful, or grandfather, or whoever. And sometimes they don't have adults like that around. There may be somebody way distant, real mad because they got to take up the slack of raising the child in the absence of other adults. It's come down to them, and your mama, your daddy, da da da, and it's like this child is taking
Mm.
all this in and feeling like I'm the problem. This came from me. I am the one that's problematic.
Yeah. A. Lorraine also wrote, "That was the biggest thorn between myself and my late grandmother. I was left to pay for the sins of my father."
Oh,
Gosh. Mm, that leaves me speechless.
yeah. And the sad part
Absolutely.
about it is, Emmy, Lily, you can speak for it's the norm.
Mhm.
This trauma is the norm in so many households.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's across multiple cultures, all cultures.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember this guy that I went to high school with, he's Filipino, and he shared with me one time that his grandmother hated him because he looks like his father.
Mm,
And, his father was around when he grew up. His parents were still married, but his grandmother didn't want his mother to marry his father.
mm,
So they're in a happy marriage. From what I could tell when I was in high school, they're perfectly fine, but the grandmother never let it go
mm,
because it was kind of like overthrowing her authority over her own daughter. Her
mm,
daughter disobeyed her. I
mm,
was like, ooh, that's intense. And he was very good at masking and compartmentalization. He was always very chill. But I still, looking back, it's like he wasn't chill. He just hid a lot.
mm.
He learned to shut down.
Mm.
He learned to not communicate when there's an issue and all of that. Yeah. It was sad. It was sad. Whenever I look back at interactions in high school, he just had a sadness about him, this perpetual sadness that he hid with just a chill attitude and or personality and like a very kind smile. He had a happy smile.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he would smile at inappropriate times. So it always made me question, like, is he a really happy person, or is that just the way he covers his pain?
That's
You
deep.
know?
That's deep.
Um, oh, asthma is often a condition that results from suppression, either emotional suppression or physiological suppression of symptoms.
Mm.
So, people who practice naturopathy, holistic medicinal approaches, those type of things, herbalists, if they're properly trained with the right information, they will tell you that asthma has a lot to do with suppression.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, ooh,
Verify, guys. Saying that it's the norm in certain cultures. Now, I'm not saying that it's only happening in one culture. Yes, I acknowledge that this can be across cultures. I do still acknowledge that sometimes certain cultures are disproportionately impacted by certain things. So I want to be very real about and very clear about understanding that it definitely is not limited to one culture or one race or one background. It definitely happens all over. I still want to acknowledge the disproportionate impact that sometimes occurs too.
yeah. And,
And the
for
different problems. This may be this certain problem in one household. It may be a completely different problem in another household, but it can be just as intense, just different things that are more common to these particular people, those particular people.
yeah, part of what I've told my children is that, every family has issues.
Yeah.
Some families are just better at hiding those
Yeah.
issues and normalizing the issues than
Uh,
others.
oh yeah.
And yeah, I also tell them what's normal for our family might not be normal for other people.
Mhm. It's
Yeah.
not, girl. It's not. It's not.
Yeah,
That's
no.
so precious. Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, my kids, when they were all still like very, very young toddlers and just learning about people and social dynamics, they didn't understand why they could see, other toddlers in playgroups being disrespectful and disregarding and not sharing and just
Mhm.
flat out inconsiderate.
Mhm.
And the parent would witness their child doing this and not say anything.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's not for us to correct that unless it's happening to us.
Mhm.
It's not because one of my kids would go up to the other parents and be like, "Do you not see your child?" I'm like, "I am so sorry."
About which one that is.
You'd be surprised.
I don't know.
It's not my mini me.
No, I didn't think it was the mini me. I didn't think it was the mini me. I actually think it's one who's like he doesn't tell people that he's like the guardian of the galaxy, and he doesn't always when he needs to pull it out, he can and he will. But he's so chill. Right? Is that the one?
Well, he's done that before. Most of my children have done that. So
Well, I mean, they can do all of them too. But no, I'm talking about one in particular. Like he's like the
I
he's
know which one.
huh?
I know which one you're talking about.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that one. He
Right.
would just kind of like, "That's weird."
wonder, I wonder, you know what? I don't know if I'm guessing right, but I tend to think that it's your eldest.
Yeah.
Was it? All right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. He would go up to parents and be like, "That's not appropriate. Your kid is being inappropriate."
I could see him doing that.
Hey, yeah.
But their household is not the norm, guys, with all the stuff going on. But I want to say just because it's not the norm doesn't mean that beauty shouldn't be the norm. There's another way. There's definitely another way.
Yeah, definitely. Like with the number of kids that I have, um, the way they've grown up and the perception that we have tried our best to instill in them. Not only are they responsible for self regulation, we also encourage them to go ahead and support their sibling in self regulation when they see their sibling is struggling with self regulation,
I
you
love
know? So it's kind of like, um, knowing that they are still children, but also teaching them that as children, you are powerful. You are a powerful member of our family,
it. Mhm.
and together we can get through anything. Like I remember one time years ago, one of them was like, "Why do I have to do that?"
Mhm.
Um, because we're a family and we do things for each other. That's why.
Absolutely.
That's why, right? And no one really asks that now because they're like, "I already know what you're gonna say." I'm not gonna get out of it. Because I'm not gonna be apologetic about it. That whole concept of, oh, children need to be children and they shouldn't be forced to wash dishes. I don't think so.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
you have your chores. You need to do your chores. I'm
yeah.
not gonna yell at you to do it right now unless I've been asking you for hours. At
Mhm.
which point I'm gonna be like, hey, you got corn in your ears? Is that what's going on? You're not hearing me
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Mhm.
you know so there are expectations. They are free to be themselves,
Mhm.
but they do still know that there are expectations as a member of the family that we have to work cohesively.
Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's kind of like, there's times where we have to tell the older boys, like, okay, you are a sibling, you are not the parent, you don't
Mhm.
have to take responsibility to that degree. That is not your job.
Mhm.
Mommy and daddy are perfectly fine to handle
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Okay. So, and it's not like the older boys are shot calling things. No, it's like recognizing they're feeling pressure to kind of step in a role as a parent. And it's like, no, 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 no. You go and do your thing. You don't need to babysit. This is not a special occasion. Mommy and daddy's not going to be home. You know what I mean? Where it's like we go out of our way to make sure that the kids know you do have these expectations you have to live up to, which is being, a helpful, productive member of our family. But you also have your autonomy.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
don't live your life for everyone else,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But as you live your life, just be considerate of each other. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think if we normalize that more, people would be more willing to help each other, but
Mhm.
also not take ownership of other people's perpetual toxicity.
Yeah. I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
And you guys, I'm not saying my family is perfect. I'm just, these are my thoughts on how we could potentially begin changing the way the world is.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect for it to be beautiful. We're not perfect people. I
No.
don't feel we're perfect people. I don't feel we are perfect, but I feel that good people are good people.
Hmm.
And if good people who do still have some things to work through can come together and really vow to say, you know what, I want better for myself. I want better for my family. I want better for the beautiful ones that are not yet born. I
Yeah.
think we can really change a lot of things. We
Yeah.
can.
I definitely feel that's something within our capacity within this lifetime.
I
I
think so.
feel like it is. Because it's not such a huge change
Mhm.
that we're trying to be something outside of who we naturally are
Mhm.
before the traumas happened, before the distortions became, our visual of the world, right?
Yes. And that's what I mean by reverting. I don't mean reverting in a way where you're regressing and that's the kind of reverting that I like. Back to those settings that are more of who we are, you know. That's the only
Ooh,
kind of reverting I really want us to deal with.
I saw this comment right here. Breaking generational trauma takes courage to not rebel, instead vow to change things for our kids.
Yeah.
Example, not being said, I love you to by any parent for so many years. Since 7, I tend to say it too much. Yeah.
Mm.
We have to make sure that as we make these corrections, we're not overcompensating for a distorted view that we have, right? So like for my oldest, he was the only child for quite a few years, and it was this thing of me being so present because I was overcompensating for my sense of, I didn't have enough parental presence and guidance growing up. That's how I felt. And so I was overly present, and I became aware after a certain point, like, my child is not going to be able to make decisions and be autonomous as an adult if I continue this. And
That's true.
so I backed up and, like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
What do you think is the right thing? What
Yeah.
is your schedule? All these questions. And um, I really learned something profound when I came to that realization. I understood that I was overcompensating, not correcting.
Mhm.
Because if you're correcting, you're trying to find the center point, not going from the far right to the far left,
Mhm.
right? We want a world, hold on, this one. We want a world where we see the clouds, flowers, and butterflies and enjoy the earth's goodness instead of always waiting for who's attacking
Mhm.
next, staying present instead of being on guard.
Bars. I like that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful.
But see, here's the thing. You'll never have a world where you see the clouds, flowers, and butterflies and enjoy the earth's goodness when you keep yourself imprisoned in the pain that's happened over the course of your life.
Mm.
When you try and protect yourself, to be on guard, to take that to the utmost degree because of your fear of connection becomes the very fortress that is your imprisonment.
Mhm. Bars, girl, bars.
So if you guys want to see the world of clouds, flowers, and butterflies, you have to have the courage to step out of the fortress every once in a while.
Mm.
You know, the fortress can stay there. It can stay there and you can retreat back to it when it's necessary.
Mhm.
But on the days where there's no reason to be in that fortress, come
Mhm.
outside, enjoy the sunlight,
Yeah,
enjoy the earth, the flowers, and everything that lives on her surface.
true.
Just really having that courage to be in your softness.
Mhm.
Um, I think I found my courage to be in my softness when I realized I'm a badass and I can handle anything life sends my way. And if need be, I'll revert back to a space of absolute hoodlumness. I can handle any situation that comes my way. I don't have to be that though.
Right, right,
I don't
right.
have to live as a
You pull those
savage.
parts out when you need those parts. I'm not going to get rid of the part of me that will if you step to me wrong.
Yeah,
But I'm also not going to get rid of the part of me that's so beautiful and loves humanity. And there's room inside who I am for all of my different parts. I am an unapologetic totality.
right. Exactly. Exactly. It's this thing of the parts of me that I was most ashamed of. I realized after a certain age, those are the parts of me that protect me. And that's why people shame me for them.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so I had to lose the shame that I had for myself during the moments where I was willing to stand up for myself, to find my voice and responsibly use that voice.
Mhm.
I'm not talking about moments where I use my ability to respond quickly just to tear someone down because I know I can. Like, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when I can put someone in their place because you know what? You're not going to treat me that way. You're not going to try and get me to feel ashamed for being
Mhm.
a nice person.
Mhm.
Because there are people who are like that.
Oh yeah, there's no shortage of people in the world who are like that. But I'm so glad that you're not one of them.
Thank you, and neither are you.
Mhm.
So that's a very very beautiful thing to be able to share this space with you and speak so openly with you, knowing how similar yet how different the two of us are. I think it
Mhm.
gives a very well-rounded chatting experience for everyone.
Yeah, I think so. Looks like the fam kind of thinks so too.
I think so as well. I think the fam is definitely. Ooh, I love this. I love this. Gaze says the first steps are a maze. We fear that first step because it's not something we're comfortable about. These talks help to give us the confidence to get out of ourselves and our cages. Absolutely.
Deep.
Yeah. That's profound. I think I think that the world is going to do what it's going to do, and we are already scheduled to begin our healing.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's good stuff.
So these talks simply give you, a little bit of that room to begin looking at yourself in the mirror and knowing it's not something ugly that you're going to see. It's just the reality of who you are, and the things you love about yourself, and the things that you could maybe modify a little bit so that you could love it a little bit more, right? You don't have to adore every single part of yourself, but you do have to have that genuine love for every single part of yourself, knowing that every single part of you exists for a very specific reason. And there are appropriate times for each aspect of you to step forward. Yeah. So I think we're out of time.
So too.
Yeah.
Okay. Just one last thing.
Uh-huh.
What products and services do you have that can help with any of these things we talked about? How can people get in touch with you? And what's coming after this podcast? That's my
Okay.
last thing.
So, the most comprehensive type of session that you could get is a mentorship with me. If you want to learn the energetic, the basic energetic techniques to maintain the work that I do on you. Now, if you're less interested in energy aspect of your situation and more interested in the emotional and whole being development of you, I would suggest the self and soul coaching. I am a life coach. I don't talk about that enough. I am a life coach as well as a spiritual coach. And so I have sessions. It's called the self and soul coaching, where we can dive really deep into all the different aspects of your life and your journey and really just focus on that rather than the energetic portion of things. Sometimes, a lot of people's struggles are rooted more in the emotions and how those emotions cause physiological changes as well as psychological and energetic. Um, Oh, Gaze says, I had asked about the St. Benedict medallions. Can you tell us about those? So, the St. Benedict medallions, I carry that on the Emmie Evolving website. And those medallions are programmed to whoever you ask me to program it to. I have a very deep, very complex connection with the St. Benedict medallions. They are the two tattoos that I have on my wrist, though they're St. Benedict medallions. Um, the St. Benedict medallion, in accordance with what I was taught in Catholic school, Catholic teachings. Saint Benedict was a saint that worked closely with Archangel Michael. And when priests enter into the seminary, they're given a Saint Benedict medallion to protect them from the manipulations of the devil. And so, for me personally, what the Saint Benedict medallions represent is my commitment to undoing the darkness and the evil in the world. With the Saint Benedict medallion, part of my history, before I got it tattooed, I was having what I thought were night terrors for quite a bit. They were actually precognitive dreams that were telling me what part of my role in the world would be, which is the parasitic extraction, being able to see and remove parasitic, demonic type energies. And with that, a friend had given me the St. Benedict medallion when he found out that I was having such intense nightmares that I was misusing caffeine pills. I didn't want to sleep. I would go for 3, 4, 5 days at a time of not sleeping. And then I would sleep for about 30 minutes, have night terrors, and not want to sleep again for days on end. And so he gave me my first St. Benedict medallion. He told me a little bit of the history of it for his family and how it protects them and this and that. I didn't believe much in what he was saying, but from the moment he gave me the medallion, I stopped having the night terrors. And as part of my other history, whenever friends would tell me that their child was having night terrors or being bothered, I would gift them with a St. Benedict medallion that I would program to the child, and the child would stop having night terrors as well. So the Saint Benedict medallion, clearly you can get it anywhere. It's not a big deal. You can get it from any type of like Catholic or Christian store, online, in person. You can buy it at a church that has a gift shop. The difference between medallions you get from me and medallions you purchase from somewhere else is that I will program the medallion for you. So, what children have told me, oh, it makes me emotional. Mm. I've had several children tell me when they receive their medallion, it feels like I'm standing beside their bed watching them as they sleep. And that's why nothing comes.
Oh,
So,
and especially, having your history and knowing how it is to be tormented as a child. I
yeah,
can only imagine how that
yeah.
for you.
That's why it's such an honor for me to be able to be allowed to be a part of a child's journey in that way.
Mhm.
It's not my conscious cognitive mind that's there. It's a fractal of my soul that kind of just the children sense it.
Mm.
Like I'm there with them, and so they're safe and they can sleep peacefully.
I love
So those are definitely, and they stay programmed. You
it.
don't have to do anything else to them. They stay programmed. I have such a soft spot for children, just such a soft spot.
Mhm.
And so that's something that I really go out of my way to do for kids, especially for everyone, of course, but for kids especially.
Mhm.
Another thing that people can consider, and this is much higher level um, energetic spiritual aspect to it, is the Moldavite that I have on the Emmy Evolving website. Um, Ocean Soul just reminded me, when you pair the Saint Benedict medallion with the Moldavite, it becomes something ridiculously profound when it comes to energetic protection, shielding, correction of whatever is being done, revocation of black magic, of attempts to harm. It becomes something very profound. So a lot of the people that I know, they have a medallion and the Moldavite together. A lot of the people that I personally know that have had struggles with this type of thing, they have both together and it's worked beautifully for them. Yeah. Um, I can program scapulars too. I used to wear scapulars as a child all the way through my adulthood, actually. Um, you can keep, what I would recommend is that you keep one by their bed, because for some kids you do get into this space of being concerned that they'll get choked by the necklace while they sleep, and I'm paranoid like that. So what I like to do is keep one by the bed, either attach it to their headboard, or if they have a nightstand, keep it at the nightstand, and just leave it there so it's always there if they have issues when they sleep, and then having a second one that they can wear when they're out and about. Another thing, if the child is young, choking hazard is very real. So what I would recommend is getting a child safe necklace. My children wear um, Baltic amber necklaces with the safety release clasp. One of my kids has had that for, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years. And so he's never, it's never got caught on anything, but it's never fallen off him either.
Mhm.
So it's a very durable thing, but if it gets caught on something, if it exceeds X amount pounds of pressure, it will snap. So that's the safety feature. And then I just attached I got a jump ring, and that's how I attach the pendant to it, the Saint Benedict pendant. Scapulars, I'll show you guys an image. This is huge for Filipinos. Scapular. And I'm sure you guys have seen stuff like this before. You just probably didn't know what it was called. Um, it's either made of it's either made of cloth, or it can be made of I don't see it. Well, I'll just show you guys what they showed here. Let me share this image. It's a spiritual tool that some Catholics, I don't know if Christians use it, but some Catholics will use it. It looks like this. Let me hold on really quick. They're typically worn. They don't really show it. It's weird. But one here, it looks like this. One is in front. One of the squares is in front of you. The other square is in back of you, and it has prayers that you could do. There's some like this where these squares are made of plastic, and these are just knotted. I don't know if it's nylon or something like that, and it's like a rosary. There's a cross at the end of it. These were the ones that we most commonly wore, and there are some people who believe that if you die, unexpectedly die, and you have that, you're immediately granted access to heaven. I'm like, okay. Okay, you still got to live a good life. Stop that. But yeah, it's just a spiritual necklace. I can program them remotely. I can also check on some of the different vendors that I get things from. There might, I want to say I saw a scapular rosary form that was made of Saint Benedict medallions, but I'm not sure. I have to check on that. But yeah, it's definitely, I believe in it. I've used it, and I always felt very protected by it. But I don't know if it was my energy, excuse me, or the scapular. I felt extra like ballsy when I had it on. So I don't know if it was my energy that kept me a little more shielded from things. Yeah. But let's see. Was there any last questions? Mother Gaia, no. I will email you. I did not mail anything, and I just it did not resonate with me. It didn't resonate with me, and that's not how I utilize funds from the nonprofit. So with Soulwork Synergistic, when I try to raise funds for individuals, therefore not in real life needs, they're not for things that are optional or things that are for entertainment. They would need to be things that, like, if you have a need for say like winter clothing, if you have a need to replace shoes, if the child has a need for books, educational books, that type of thing. But no, we don't do, gaming systems or anything like that. That's just, I can't rationalize that type of elevated expense, because they're definitely not cheap systems. So I hope that answers your question. You have anything left you want to share, Ocean?
Um, no, I say no, then I want to add something. I would just say a couple of things and I'll let it go. It's interesting that came up because I've been I'm always concerned about public those who are in the public sector understanding that they are stewards of the public trust.
Right.
And I think it's always important for us to remain mindful of that, as we avoid impropriety and even the appearance of impropriety in any way. And I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to say thank you very much for the opportunity, Emmie. Thank you, fam, for the opportunity, for all the kind words that you all have for us, for the engagement. We love and appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Definitely. You guys, this was such a special talk. I loved being able to share a lot of my thoughts and, really just focusing on interacting with all of you and just creating such an open conversation. If you guys enjoy this type of format, definitely let us know. We are considering a potentiality of, creating a call in option where you could call it hello, ring, ring. And so, it's just one of those things where if you like it, if you like the format and being able to ask your questions, definitely let us know. Leave a comment on this video. Let us know via email, and we'll definitely get on working on making that happen, that call in option. So, for those who don't know, we're headed over to the after party on the soulsanctuary.love. If you have not yet joined that, definitely make sure that you go ahead and join us. Part of the way you can is going to the soulsanctuary.love and signing up for a recurring contribution. Um, oh, can I make a couple announcements before we go?
Of course.
In our very, very deeply held desire to be in full compliance with 508c1a tax, is that a categorization?
I'm sorry.
Is that a categorization, 508c1a?
Yeah, 508C1A.
Yeah. So, in our desire to be as compliant as possible, we are also considering regular classes for parents and children, kind of like a Sunday school, but Emmy style teaching. We're also doing quite a few different other things. If you would like to be updated about the opportunities to join us as a church, not as a faith based organization, but as a full on church, sign up for the newsletter on soulworksynergistic.com. We have a lot of announcements we're going to be sending out on the newsletter. It's not necessarily going to be talked about in live streams. It's going to be more of, sending out to people who want to be a part of our ministry. Okay. And there's no cost to be a part of the ministry in that way. You definitely can sign up and get that newsletter and get all the announcements. All right. So we're kind of running late. We got to get going. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Please do give this video a thumbs up. And again, if you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe. Turn on that notification bell. Join me when I'm live, and we'll see you guys at the after party. Bye, everyone.